Hello, welcome back. I am going to be talking today about relations and lack of accountability. This is something that was sent to me. And as you all know, I do not agree with that. Are we dating the same guy? Facebook groups most of the time, because most of the time it has nothing to do with safety. Now, although I disagree that this may have a little bit to do with safety, it was the way that it was presented that I have a problem with. I want to address it because there's definitely a lack of accountability. Yes, men can be manipulative, so can women. Both sides have toxic members who run around proud screaming victim when in fact they're the ones making the bad decisions all on themselves, like all on their own. No one is holding a weapon up to their head and saying, you must do this. However, somehow they always come out on the other end screaming, I am a victim. This happened to me. And I want to give kudos to these ladies who held this woman accountable in the comments. The man is no better. If what this woman is posting is true, the man is no better by any means. He's just as much as a responsible jerk that she is. However, I do want to talk about the lack of discipline and the shared responsibility of toxic people that create toxic environment that has toxic results. At the end, I'm going to go over the summary and the things that I saw. On July 12th, anonymous member posted, doesn't wrap the willy, gets you pregnant, gets mad that you're pregnant, even though he doesn't like to use protection, begs for an A and goes the same day you get one. Promise to be there for the aftercare, but dips. First initial is S. Marine, station in camp. Y'all fill in the blanks. Big red flag. Let's start off with the fact that the person, this looks like a dating profile. I see. I'm not really sure which one it is. I'm not familiar with this one. But it says the key to my heart is manipulation. Wow, that should have been the first red flag. Yeah, that's very interesting. Anyways, this individual has a couple of pictures here, as you can see. Um, there's a picture of them in a what appears to be some people in the background. A picture more here. There's a picture of this person sitting in a car, and I believe this is a baby picture. And I blacked it out because even though I'm sharing this story for the purpose of trying to understand what the heck is going on and the tomfoolery, I also wanted to black out this part so that this person can have some type of anonymity. Again, this man that is being blasted out here has every right to defend themselves. Every right. So Samantha says, it takes two people to make a baby. Shouldn't let him in without a hat. The author responds and says, I'm not saying there was a problem having a baby. He got mad because of the pregnancy. He got mad because he got someone pregnant and forced the A by yelling and throwing little tantrums. If he didn't want a baby, he knew what would happen if he didn't wear protection. Then he shouldn't be so surprised. Get what I mean? I was okay with having the baby. Let me keep my comments to myself. Member 110 says, not just that, but okay with having a baby with a man who wouldn't commit. I'm so confused. The author is basically responding, and I'm not really sure what that was. I'm not familiar with that GIF. 431 says, LOL, my jaw dropped. The author says, yeah, I was okay with it. I even offered for him to give up his parental rights. Girl, he is not going to do that. Oh my God, this woman is delusional. Another member says, so what is the point of this post then? The author responds and says, to make people aware of the kind of guy he is. He doesn't like wearing protection. Some girls are okay with it. Will throw tantrums, even threats if you don't consider the A. And he expects you to make a rational decision, knowing rational decision he made before getting someone pregnant was not wearing protection. A's do a lot to a woman's body. 431 says, just start using protection for your own good so we can avoid these situations. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Member 110 says, my love, why? Michaela says, agreed. Been there and done that. Never again. It's a lesson learned. But if him, and thank you for sharing to show other girls who do float in the same boat so they know what type of guy he is. Heart emoji. Myra says, STDs can also do a lot to a woman's body. Take some accountability. The author responds and says, Myra, take some accountability for, ? I'm clean, and so is he. Not sure what you are getting at. Yes, we didn't use protection. Oh my God, this woman is insufferable already. I can't. She's very immature, very doesn't care about her body either. Myra says, so you're just as fast and easy as him? ? Liddy says, Just put a dental dam in or a girl protection and call it a day. Member 792 says you'll have to start wearing protection in all caps. She's screaming at her. The author agrees. 930 says, I just don't understand the appeal to have a baby with a man that doesn't want one. Why start off with a broken home? A man cannot force you to get pregnant, much less carry or A. Let's do better and use protective measures to avoid these types of situations. Oh, Lord, here goes the author again. More like I appealed to have relations with a man for pleasure multiple times, but ended up getting pregnant. The consequences of not wearing protection. I'm not blaming him for getting me pregnant because I don't care. I want the baby. I'm saying is, how can someone not know the consequences of not wearing protection? What? Girl, I'm so lost. I don't understand. Like somebody laughed and I'm beyond laughing. I'm just getting I lost a brain cell. 237 says, wanting a baby with a man who isn't even committed to you is literally setting your kid up for failure and honestly just weird. Off an app with no ring on your finger? Why would you even consider that? 930 says, he knew the consequences, but he's not willing to accept the responsibilities. He's not looking for anything long term. He just wants to have his fun and move on. It sounds like you are not on the same page. He wants to go raw because it feels good. You're okay with it because you don't mind getting pregnant with a man you barely know, which is a terrible idea. Bringing a baby into an already failing situation is setting them up to struggle long term and also yourself. It's hard being a single parent. Why create another obstacle for yourself? The author responds by saying, some people are just ready for that obstacle. It's just like going to the bank. Honestly, no one is really ever ready for a baby. But whatever obstacle being a single mom, I would have faced alone. Girl, what? You know what? This is the kind of woman that gets pregnant and then she comes here later on and she says, I'm going to post this guy because he's a deadbeat dad, knowing that this guy didn't want a baby with her. This is exactly what would have happened. She's that type. Member 101 says, well, clearly you didn't want a baby. 930 says, then I think your best bet is a bank. It's less messy and all parties know what they are getting involved in. I think therapy will be much more beneficial in your case, though. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. 237 says, I don't think you understand how stupid this sounds. And I promise I'm a girl's girl to the core, but girl, fill your emotion voids in something that's not a child. I think she meant to say fill your emotional voids with something that is not a child. But we get you, member 237. Somebody says, tell his mom. Landa says, side note, the key to his heart is manipulation. Yikes. He sounds like a gem, LOL. Be glad you didn't get stuck with him for 18 years. Toxic loves toxic. See, I pointed that out at the beginning, how it said like the key to my heart is manipulation, because that should have been her red flag. She's immature. I don't know what she was looking for. 637 says, you'll stay posting about red flags, and I'm not excusing his actions, but you all are just as much of a red flag as half of these dudes posted. Get it together. 159 says, he comes through my McDonald's all the time. I'll mess up his order on purpose for you. Girl, you're going to end up pregnant because you know what's going to happen? You're going to mess up this guy's order. He's going to walk up in there, look at you because he's a good looking man. Okay. And then you're going to feel like you need to fix his order and you're going to do it again. And he's going to come in again. Get my drift here? You're going to end up pregnant. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Just leave him alone. Just give him his order. Don't get fired. 537 says, so did you not have a talk with him about you could get pregnant and see if it changed his mind about not wearing protection or make him man up when you get pregnant? This is why these guys do this, because women don't like to say no to a guy. 125 says, you live and you learn. If a man is saying he doesn't like to use protection, that means he sleeps with every woman raw. That should have been the red flag for you. Make sure you get yourself tested respectfully. 900, this is where I get annoyed. Not sure why everyone feels the need to point out the fact that this girl deserves to be treated so poorly by an irresponsible person. All these comments feel like victim shaming. Not saying that she is free of responsibility, but I appreciate the warning. Sounds like some pick-me girls in here. Oh my God. I have smoke for member 900, but I'm gonna keep it to myself. Stephanie says, it's pick me to use common sense and to say it takes two to tango. Doesn't excuse how he treated her, but she knew what she was doing and willingly chose unprotected relations and chose to end a life. No one is saying she deserves it, but if you make stupid choices, you have to deal with the consequences. And that is that. Not pick me in the slightest. Hope that helps. 900 responds and says, so nice of you to point out what she is living through. Try kindness instead of rubbing salt into the wound. Maybe this isn't the group for you since you feel it's necessary to judge a person for her choice to end a pregnancy. This isn't the group for that. Do that on your own page. Now, girl, she came on here and posted. You ever notice how stupid people don't realize they're stupid? And the only people that get hurt are the people around them that have to deal with the stupidness. Shayna says, I definitely see some unhealthy, rude comments, but I think a lot of what I see are some women agreeing with her while also asking her to look at her choices so that she does not get hurt again. If he had worn a protection and poked holes or pulled it off midway, then yes, she had no choice in the matter. She claimed to want the baby, but got rid of it because he whined and had a tantrum. Her words. If she wanted that baby, she would have kept it and either made him not be a part of the child's life or made him man up. She is a victim for sure, yes. Oh my God. No, she isn't. I think we all agree he is scum, which he is. I agree with that. But I think we just don't think that these things happened to her. She played a part in the choice. I can't speak to other people being unkind, but when I was young, which I truly believe she is, I needed a reality check. Name one of us who didn't. And I think this might be hers. Sometimes the kind thing someone can do is tell you your part so you do not repeat the mistake. If she really believes none of this is her fault, then who is to say this won't happen again? Most young men don't react well to the news of pregnancy. If she wants to be a mother, then no one should be able to force her out of it. He has his choice when he chose with her to be unprotected during relations. We as women have a lot of choices today and does us no good to pretend otherwise as individuals or as a collective. Whew, that was a lot of reading. Good Lord. 237 is responding to 900 because she's not a victim. She made a baby with a trash man knowing he was a trash man. Take responsibility. Not everything is women in power. I think she meant to say like not everything is women empowerment maybe. I'm not really sure. I don't get the last part, but I get the first part. Rema says she literally had unprotected relations, yes, but no one should ever force you into having an A and then not even be there for them afterwards. This is so hard to go through alone, especially because it's not what she wanted to do. Stop attacking this girl. Men, if you are seeing this video for any reason, stay away from people like Rema. Okay? She likes to pacify these type of women. Watch out for people like her. Stephanie responds and says, LOL, sweetheart. You know nothing about me and the choices I have made in the past. It isn't judgment, it is just pointing out facts. And I have learned lessons like that the hard way too. It is about taking accountability for your actions. I am not judging her choice. So glad you are the moral police and the pick me judge. 101 is responding and says, 900, I don't think it's victim shaming. I think people are telling her what she needs to hear and not what she wants to hear. It takes two to tango. One of them choosing to sleep with a man without protection, and my guess possibly also not on birth control. Like, duh, what would you think would happen? She is also in the same boat as him, both very irresponsible, if not more because it's her body. She would be the one risking her body to create life and then gets an A and blames it on this man. Let's be for real. She got an A because she wanted to. Sure, he sounds like an awful person to have pushed that on her with his tantrum, but at the end of the day, we all make choices. If she really didn't want to have an A and end the life, she could have chosen to own her mistake and have the baby. If he was that awful, she could have had law enforcement involved and gotten a restraining order, etc. But she's mad that he wasn't happy about her pregnancy and wanting to settle down and have a baby with her. Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. And here comes 900 again. I'm going to lose another brain cell in a second here. So let me just take a deep breath because 900 is, yeah. Yeah, you aren't reading her words. She took responsibility. Where? I don't see where she took responsibility, but okay, let's keep going. She just let a man influence her for the sake of keeping the peace with him, and he still disrespected her. I'm sure you've never let a person influence you, and I'm sure you've never regretted a decision you've made. But hey, we all can't be perfect like you. See, this is what these people resort to whenever they're not getting their way or whenever they're not getting the answer that they want. People like member 900 here, she doesn't know what accountability looks like. She wants to pretend that all women are innocent and all men are jerks, which we all know it's not true. Okay. So she's just a weirdo. I don't want this video flagged, so I'm going to read this very carefully. And I'm saying dream, okay, with a D. 914 says, exactly. God forbid a girl likes dream pies. Good Lord. Shayna responds and says, 914, it's fine to like dream pies, but then you have to own that that is a choice you are making because you like it, not because it was forced onto you. Also, you and him should know if you choose to dream pie, even if you use plan B, a baby may happen. That now is the burden you bear for that choice. Amanda says, 900, because it takes two people to have a child in this situation. That's why I think we reach the point in society where us women should be educated enough to know not to have unprotected relations with fun boys, then act surprised when they don't want a baby. I mean, really, a young Marine who is good looking in Southern California, why would he want to be tied down with a kid? Think about it, chica. Somebody says, honestly, someone should play this guy the way they play us. Girl, your grammar. 696, fix your grammar. Also, he don't want kids. Why is one of his pics of when he was a little baby? Ugh, boys. Girl, who? I lost two brain cells reading that. 524 says, I don't get why people have unprotected relations when not in a committed relationship. 310 says, sorry, but all of this could have been avoided if you had refused to have relations with him unless he wore protection. Yes, you also could have refused to get an A. He can't force you to do either of those things legally. He's within his rights to throw a tantrum and act however he wants to act about someone having his baby. Were his actions childish? Yes, but he had a pretty regular crash out at the possible major change in his life. You had two choices and you gave into his request, not forced, not demanded by a judge. He cried and whined a bit, and you made a decision that appeased him. His persuasion was greater than your desire for a child. I see no real issue with his actions because he only did what you allowed. 359 says, having relations is a two-way street. They both made the choice. So toxic to solely blame the woman. She literally, 359, whoever you are, she literally came here to blame him and him only. Now she's being held accountable, and now you're coddling her. These women are exhausting. This is coming from a woman, okay? And these women are exhausting. And no, I do not want the red pill manosphere over here talking their smack and taking this as a talking point, okay? I like how a lot of these other women are holding her accountable. So let's not forget about that part. 310 says, but it's not toxic for her to solely blame him. He acted the way he did and she allowed it. Nothing happens to her that she didn't go okie dokie about. Shayna says, honey, I get you're hurting and this man is trash. No doubt. But no one forced you to have unprotected relations with him. And no, I truly mean no one can force you to have an A you don't want to. It sounds like you had an expectation that he'd stick around after that when the evidence showed otherwise, and now you're placing all of this at his feet. He's a pile of garbage for sure, but you need to heal and ask yourself why he was able to make you comply with things you truly didn't want, honey, because otherwise, this is doomed to be repeated. Love and light to you, honey. 524 says, exactly, it takes two to make a baby. The author responds by saying, thank you. My post was really to warn other girls who don't have protected relations, the stuff they'll run into. Yes, I shouldn't have caved into not wearing protection, but I'm definitely not the only one. Red flag for not wearing protection and expecting not to get pregnant after. This girl doesn't make any sense. She's responding, trying to defend herself, and her defense is coming off as even worse. Like, honestly. Shayna responds by saying, I don't think anyone is disputing he's a red flag, honey. Just that the blame for you getting pregnant doesn't solely lie at his feet. You allowed it. And no man can force you to go get an A. If you wanted a baby, as you stated, then you could have had it. The author responds and says, Shayna, I don't blame him for getting me pregnant, lol. That's not what this post was about. Actually, it was. It literally was about you getting pregnant. So I don't know where you're coming from that. I want a baby, even if he wasn't in the picture. That's what donations are for. I can raise a baby without the father. I'm saying is he doesn't wear protection. He clearly doesn't know the consequences of not wearing one. I'm saying the red flag comes from not being responsible and not taking accountability for anything. Yes, we hunched. Yes, we weren't wearing protection. It's his way or no way. No one forced me to get an A but him. He yelled through fits and threatened. I didn't want an A. I wanted to keep the baby. I offered no child support, cutting off his parental rights like he didn't have a child at all. He only thought of himself really and not how it affected me at all. My body, my mental state. There is no guarantee that you wouldn't have gone to his chain of command and claimed that that baby was his, even though you're saying all of this right now. None. There is no proof that you would have raised this baby by yourself. And that's not even fair to the baby. And I'll talk about that at the end because this is completely delusional and no baby, no child deserves this. I'm glad no baby was born to this mess. Okay. I don't care what nobody thinks. This is a mess. Shayna says, okay, babe, I'm not going to keep arguing. I really hope you get some help to heal and recover through this. A10 says, did you keep the baby? Girl, no. Clearly she came over here and said that she didn't keep the baby. Where have you been? 270 says, also, why would you want him to care for you if he is a POS that forced you to get an A? Wouldn't you want someone you trust who actually cares about you around? 270 also says, did you follow through with the A? I'm hoping you didn't since you wanted the baby. If he ghosted you and you wanted it, you should have kept it. Are you still in contact with him? 274 says, my ex in Florida did this to me, except he poked holes in the protection. I found that he took over 16 women to terminate pregnancies. I was traumatized. For years, I was told I could never get pregnant. I was a few months post IO heart surgery. I think it meant to say post op heart surgery, and was told I could not carry the child, that neither me or the baby would survive. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. I know how hard it is. There's context missing here, by the way. In 274, she's trauma dumping into the comment section. I am mortified to read her comment because that is awful. 16 women. And we don't know how true this is. However, she had underlying medical conditions because having to have heart surgery is very serious. 530. First red flag was key to his heart question being answered as manipulation. I said that. I said that at the beginning. Second red flag is that he parked on the sidewalk. I didn't see that. I don't see how you saw that in that post. Maybe there was a picture that I didn't see, but I didn't see that. Now, this is pretty serious. I'm genuinely sorry if he had gotten pregnant. Please just remember you have rights to make him pay for his actions. There is nothing she can do now. Okay? She gave up that baby. She did not want that baby. Y'all are fooling yourselves by thinking she wanted this baby. The key to his heart is manipulation. Has anyone ever thought to do actual scientific studies in the red flag thing that these guys put in their profiles and think that it's okay? Anna says, in what appears to be a completely consensual situation, please do not have relations with anyone without protection. It's not just about the pregnancy, it's also about Sierra Tango Delta prevention, and at least pull out. At the average, don't have relations with people willy-nilly. I'm not against intercourse for pleasure, but I've never met anyone who went for relations early on that wasn't just plain two-timing or a general jerk. Poor Anna. I feel for you, girl. I feel for you, Anna. 475 says, if a man isn't going to respect your boundaries of protected relations, he's not going to respect any boundaries. Wearing protection isn't asking a man to bend over backwards and go above and beyond. I'm really sorry, though, that he left you alone during the aftercare period. I hope you're doing okay, truly. So this woman came online to bless the man, but failed to take accountability for her actions, which led to this mess. Clearly, when she made the original post, she said that he got her pregnant. At no point did she say, I ended up pregnant because of my actions. See, I would have had more sympathy for her had she come to the internet and said, I made a choice to engage in consensual relations resulting in a pregnancy because I didn't protect myself and I had an A. Please don't be me. Unless she was tied down somewhere and he was pointing a weapon at her head, she was not forced. I also don't like the idea in the use of the word forced me. No one forced you, okay? She's sitting here saying that he threw a tantrum, he threatened her. How comes he didn't post the threats? We also do not know his side of the story. And y'all know I hate these pages that only allow for one-sided stories to be told. Now, I do think that he's being reckless, by the way. I don't excuse or condone his behavior based on her allegations. However, she took no accountability for the fact that she wants a baby. She wants to force a baby onto a man that doesn't want a baby with her. She has plenty of other men out here that have the desire to have a child. Hopefully she finds somebody, she settles down, because children being raised under the roof of two parents is just better for them. There's also the bank option. I'm not here to police up what people do with their reproductive systems. I'm not into that kind of mess. This was very irresponsible of both of these people. I want to address the part where she's claiming that she would have let him go and get away with not being part of the baby's life. I don't believe that for 1 second. She found a good-looking man. They hunched a couple of times. She probably liked him more than he liked her. Probably ended up in a situation where she thought, I can just go ahead and he's just going to have to stay in my life like this. Now, she's saying that she was forced to go get an A. Being forced to do something means that you had no other option. Now, were you pressured? Yes. The better word here is that he pressured you to do something that you did not want to do. He may have manipulated you into a situation, but I also question the manipulation factor because you're a grown adult. You're a grown ass woman. And grown ass women need to be responsible for themselves. We are not about to sit up here and coddle women whenever they do stupidity like this. And member 900, the one that kept on caping for her, that's another woman men need to watch out for because she's just like the author. So I'm not here to spread red pill content. I'm not here to be red pill. No. If I see something that is unsafe, I'm going to cover it and I'm going to cover it fairly. But what I will say here is that these women in these comment sections, they really held her accountable and held her feet to the fire. There was a couple of them that were caping for her, a couple of them that were pacifying this woman, infantilizing her behavior. But for the most part, I saw women that were calling her out and saying, you do not want to hear this, but I'm going to give you the truth. We need more of that in society. We need more people to step up and we need more people to say what needs to be said and not what people want to hear. Anyways, that's it for today's commentary. If you want to have more conversations around people who are center leaning without the extreme left or right views, then please consider subscribing and like this video.